You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about how sometimes the things we love aren't perfect. I'm Frankie.
And I'm at AK Stormageddon.
Remember those nobles? We can't put them off any longer. They want to know what we plan on doing about the Darkspawn. We're sent off to Amaranthine only to learn that the city guard considers the city to be a lost cause, and the mother is marching on Vigil's Keep. Here's our big choice. Do we stay and search for survivors, or do we return to the keep and defend it? No matter what we decide, we must then take the fight to the mother. The architect asks us to stand with him against her and to allow him to continue his experiments to give Darkspawn free will. Another ethically sticky situation. With or without the architect, the mother must be taken out.
Yep. I loved how we spent like a good 10 minutes last episode debating on how many more episodes this would be. And then I played it yesterday and went...
And we were like, oh, it's one.
Yeah.
One episode.
It's like 2 hours to finish this game. There's not much left, which I had a suspicion, but like I wasn't positive.
I feel like somehow in the way that we, like the order that we did things, we missed out. We missed out on Sigrun. We missed out on Valena, and I'm not sure if that is by design or because we made a mistake somewhere.
I feel like we must have made a mistake, but like the only way that you could... So my theory is the game is designed for Justice to be found last, because think about it. If Justice is found last...
Because he's already a...
warden.
Yeah.
And if you find Justice last, on the way to Justice, between the other two missions, you can do the whatever it's called, the ritual with the other two. But because we did Justice first, because I got to choose and he's my favorite, we ended up putting us... Like, we could have still done Valena, which you did, I think, but I ended up not because I forgot and then couldn't after Sigrun. I don't know. But if that's the... Well, I'll save this for the final episode, but all I have to say on that is if that's the case, if that's how the game was designed for you to follow through, then it should have forced you on that path. Making it optional and screwing you out of choice. I mean, then again, the game is about choices, right? So, this is working as intended on some level, I guess.
Yeah. All I know is that I've learned to never let you make any decisions.
I mean, I don't know why you do.
We've been doing
this for 5 years. You'll get no sympathy from me at this point because you keep saying yes. So,
well, usually I make the decisions. I give you one decision.
Well, now you've learned your lesson. You won't do that again. I've taught you a lesson.
All right. So once we start this conversation with the nobles, they're all very upset. Who's gonna protect us? What are you gonna do about it? The Darkspawn are here! Ah!
Yeah, someone comes running in that they're already on their way to Amaranthine, and it's discussed that while there's no way to mobilize an army that fast, a small team could go in and take care of it. And of course,
it's always a small team.
And the noble, of course, is like, "That's suicide." And our warden is pretty much like, "Not for me."
I feel like my warden is more like, "Suicide is my middle name."
Yeah, I mean, I haven't died yet.
I had it legally changed.
It's a fun little moment here where you're asked who will go with you, and so you get a tiny conversation with each person you choose. So before we discuss those, I want to confirm that we probably both took the same exact party, which is Anders, Justice, and Sigrun.
No, I took Nathaniel.
Oh, right. Of course. I forgot you have him. Who'd you take him instead of? Sigrun?
Yeah.
Okay. So you brought Justice also.
Yeah, because I like Justice better than Ogren.
I mean, duh.
Yeah.
You have taste.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so like as you select people, they like have a little thing. Starting with Anders, you know, he has his typical kind of like rude boy, chauvinistic-y kind of thing. Like, I thought I was going to retire with a harem, but instead I'm going to join you. And it's like, all right, buddy, enough.
See, I don't take him seriously when he says shit like that because he's like,
right.
Isn't that such a dumb thing that I said?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Like, if it were sincere, it'd be chauvinistic. But because he's an asshole and an idiot, it's hard to really take anything he says seriously.
Yeah, it's more like this unattainable dream that I was never going to have in the first place.
Yeah. When you choose Sigrun's pretty much like, I'm already dead, so sure, let's go. Like, you know, which is
so funny. I took Nathaniel and he was just like, this is my chance to like clear my family name, and At first I thought you were crazy for inviting me to be part of the order, but it's like the best thing that ever happened to me. I was like, oh, buddy.
And then Justice is his usual, like, to the death, we will kill them all. Okay, Justice.
Though Sigrun does say, even though I didn't choose her, don't die. That's the Legion's job.
Yeah. Ogren says something, but of course I don't remember because it's very unimportant. I think something along the lines of defending the keep with his life, and we'll make sure no one gets the ale or whatever.
Yes, he says that he'll protect the ale. Yeah. That's what he says. And Velena says something very nice to me.
Yeah, Velena, it's funny. Like, a character, I feel like her turn is too quick, but is like, gets kind of very kind very quick, which is fine. I mean, the aggression we saw was when we were strangers, so it doesn't not make sense. But yeah, she's just kind of very like, may the wind guide you or whatever, kind of one of those things.
I think it helps that we are both, as real life people and also as our characters in the game, people who are used to being marginalized.
Yeah.
So even though we personally don't share her experience, or our characters don't share her exact experience, we know what it is like to feel something like it.
Yeah.
So it's easy for us to empathize with her and to understand, like, no, I get it. You did, like, a violent thing, but I understand your reasons.
Yeah.
Like, would I have done the same thing? Maybe, actually. Who knows?
Yeah.
So I think that helps with developing that bond.
Yeah, for sure.
Because especially if you give her all the gifts, they're gifts that show that you understand her nature.
Yeah.
So I feel like we didn't get enough Velena.
No, I mean, that's like, for as long as this DLC is compared to other DLCs, it still feels a little rushed. And it's also how the stories are told within the contained missions where we acquire those characters. It's why Sigrun feels like we don't have enough time with her, both because of the order we did things and because her mission doesn't really have a ton of character development for her, other than it has a ton of character development for the Legion, but not for her personally apart from the Legion. But anyway, the party that we choose here becomes our party for the rest of the game as we finish it out here. And now we head to Amaranthine, where we're immediately approached by the constable, who pretty much tells us that the city is lost.
Well, we have a super short fight.
Oh, like, right, yeah.
The shortest fight.
Yeah, we fight people at the entrance and then have the conversation with the constable.
Yeah, like, we're swarmed by Darkspawn and it feels like I hit them once and they're like, oh no, we're all dead.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, okay. I mean, this is probably because I play on the easiest difficulty, but also...
Yeah.
Just like, oh, okay. That's fine. But yes, the captain of the guard, the constable, whatever we want to call him, he is convinced that Amaranthine is lost. There is no point. They're, like, everyone's being infected by Darkspawn sickness. There's no survivors worth looking for. That is his stance. And that is also, God, I can't even remember his name. The Keep's captain who came with us, apparently.
Yeah, apparently, I had no idea.
I had no idea he was coming with us. I was like, why are you here? But he also believes that. So when we are approached by a messenger from the architect,
yeah,
the architect tells us that he wants to fight with us. Like, he's on our side against the mother. He wants us to know that the mother is marching on the keep, and it is the goal of the mother to destroy the keep.
Yeah, and that he was sent to give us warning so we get back to the keep in time. And so here we have to make a choice between defending and cleaning up Amaranthine or running back to the keep. And let me tell you, this game preyed on my insecurities so much because at first I said, well, if Amaranthine is lost, let's go back to the keep. We might be able to save some folks. When I make that choice, Anders loses his shit. He goes, how could you do that? This city's been around for thousands of years. We can't just abandon it. And then I'm given a prompt to change my mind because my friend guilted me. And so I did. And so I stayed at Amaranthine because he made me feel so bad that I was like, oh, nope, that was the wrong choice. I'm sorry, buddy. I love you. Let's stay here instead.
Nathaniel was like, are you sure that's the right decision? And I was like, yes. And Nathaniel was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Anders got really upset. And so I was like, I guess that was the wrong choice. I feel bad. And as someone who's grown up in a household where they were guilted often, it triggered something in me. And so I stayed.
So I decided to stay as well, but not because I was guilted. I decided to stay because of the Keeps captain, who put forward the solution to straight up destroy the city.
Yeah.
Like, if the solution had just been, you guys go back, I will stay here, and like we'll try and get whatever survivors we can. Maybe we'll die doing that, but whatever. But his point of view is like, no, we have to obliterate the city so the Darkspawn can't have it.
Yeah, and that's what Anders reacted to be clear, is like, because that's you don't get to make a decision before that's brought up. And he's like, you cannot burn this thing to the ground. It's existed forever. It's the focal point of commerce in this area. You cannot do this. Which, yes, is not the correct choice. Like, because as we'll see when we play through this part, there were a ton of survivors still. They said the city was lost, but we found plenty of people. Also, there were a ton of guards who were still alive. So, like, even if the townsfolk are all dead, which they weren't, but even if they were, the guards are people too.
Like, as we go through the town, we do find guards. We do find innocent people who are holed up in the chantry. So, this is not a place that is full to the brim of people who have trained to defend themselves. Like, there are guards, sure, but there's still innocent people there who did not, like, wake up and know that, like, yes, a war is coming today. I'm going to fight. Like, they're just regular people.
Yeah.
They're normal people on their way to the market. And whereas the keep is full of soldiers, is full of people who have trained every day to defend themselves and this building. That is literally their job. So I am 100% like good with my choice of not going back to the keep. Like, finding anyone was totally worth it. However, I want to know whose dumbass idea it was to not board up the inn with the secret passageway.
Yeah, so before we get to that really quick, did you ask the messenger to help you to prove himself?
Yes.
Okay, I did the same. But yeah, apparently first of all, again, like the first time we had combat in here against thieves, we fight in a circle around the city, killing everything in a complete circle, and then go to the chantry. And then while we're in the chantry, someone comes and goes, oh my God, they're coming out of the inn. We're not sure where they're coming from. And my warden, I wanted to say, but didn't have the option, you idiots, we knew about that passage. Like
I told you about it.
So yeah, here's a frustrating thing. So when we fight our way back to the inn, it turns out that the Darkspawn are coming through the passage that leads from the inn to the outlaw hideout. And you go into that passageway and fight your way through to the outlaw hideout. And it's like, really? We talked, you and I specifically, I don't know if you can avoid this mission, right? It's a side quest. You don't have to do it. But you and I specifically did this mission, and still they didn't board it up. Like, what were they thinking?
Like, we told the constable, we were like, yeah, this is what happened. This is how this was happening.
So dumb. So stupid.
Incredibly stupid. Not on us,
no.
I would like to say.
We did our job.
So we clear out the Darkspawn, we protect Amaranthian, everybody's really happy, they applaud us, da-da-da-da-da. Fantastic. Let's talk about pursuing the mother.
Yeah, really quick. Before we go to pursue the mother, we are provided with a choice by that our captain of the guard from the keep. He asked what we want to do with the messenger. Did you spare him, or did you have them kill him?
I did spare him, but I misunderstood, I think, what the intention of sparing him was. I thought in sparing him, I was sending him back to the architect.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought. What was it not that?
So if you read through all the little vignettes, it's revealed that he becomes like a mass crusader and spreads Darkspawn virus.
Oh.
Throughout the land.
Yeah,
So apparently you just set him free upon the land, which is not what my intention was. I thought he was going to go back to the architect and go fight.
That was my thought too. I didn't.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So our intention was one thing, but what happened was something else.
Sure. And attention, as we know, often in real life, is sometimes irrelevant to results. But more about that when we get to the.
Are not the same thing.
Right, but more about that when we get to the ending. So yeah, so now we have the next part of the mission is we go to pursue the mother, in the wastes, which we had been to already once this game, right? Or is it a
I don't
location? No,
think so.
we had been there in the previous playthrough in the main game, right?
Maybe. I
Okay.
don't remember.
It's just the area looked familiar, but maybe I'm just remembering it from when I played it
Also
before.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you can leave the city of Amaranthian and go to the mother's lair, there's a skull and crossbones over the keep, which is never a good sign.
No.
Okay, so let's get into going into this lair. We have to fight our way down some towers, and I think down the second one is when we interact or we encounter the architect.
Correct. He comes forward to talk to us about his intent and his plan, and yeah.
So the architect is so fucking slimy to me.
Yeah, I'm conflicted about it. So the architect appears here to tell us that, like how so he wants to help free the Darkspawn from the control of the Archdemon. That, like how we do when we do our ritual, drink the blood of the Darkspawn and get a bit of the taint and are able to see the Archdemon and see what the Darkspawn see and have those dreams. In a similar way, he reveals that he freed the Darkspawn by giving them Warden blood, because the Warden blood has a resistance that then puts up a wall against the mind control part of the taint. And I'm guessing he got some of that blood from Kristoff.
He got that blood from Utha.
Oh no, from Utha. Right.
From Utha was the first one, probably from Kristoff, and all the other dead wardens that were brought to him, including our warden.
Yeah.
So here's my problem. He explains to us that the Darkspawn seek out these old gods, and when they find one, it starts a blight. His whole purpose, his whole plan, is to free the Darkspawn to stop the blights, which we can agree is a good thing. We don't want blights anymore. We don't want to have to fight the Darkspawn and so many people lose their lives.
Right.
It's very bad for us. However, the process of giving them this free will, first of all, they don't have the ability to ask for it. They don't have the ability to decline it. They don't have the ability to say, "Hey, I don't want this after all. Can you put me back the way I was?"
Yeah.
Because there's no way for them to go back. And also, in order for them to get this free will, it's not like they're going to set up a blood bank for Grey Wardens to donate. They're just going to go out and kill Grey Wardens.
So I didn't take it that way. Like,
how did you take it?
Well, for all of that is correct, but I think the whole discussion of the partnership is to find a way to give them the warden blood in a way that doesn't result in more murder. Because I can't imagine my warden agreeing to murder his own people. That's not how I read it.
See, I did not see any hint of like, but if we work together, we can find a way to do this without the loss of life. Like, I didn't get that at all from this conversation with the architect.
Well, and see, I didn't get it as we're just going to murder your people and free our people.
See, I also, at the same time,
yeah,
the architect doesn't blatantly say that either.
Right.
It's kind of just like left lying there.
Well, it's nebulous. I think the biggest problem with this conversation is that the intent isn't clear, which part of the character, part of the decision making, right? Like somewhat as intended, but like on the other hand, like your conversation about they don't have the free will to agree to opt in, they also currently don't have free will. They're being controlled by the old gods. And so like
that is part of the ethical stickiness.
Yeah.
Like I'm with you on that. But I want to talk about the mother and how the architect classifies her as insane.
Yeah.
Like, my failed creation. First of all, you didn't create her. You damaged her. You traumatized her.
Right.
You took away a thing that made her feel complete. And now she is suffering because of you and the decisions that you made.
Right.
And it feels very sexual assault-y.
Okay.
In my opinion. Because, like, you took away her autonomy. Because to you, in your mind, she didn't have autonomy. And you wanted to give her autonomy. But all you did was take away a thing that was important to her, and now she can't ever get it back. And now she is suffering. And that is your fault.
Yeah, I think my biggest problem here, I don't disagree with any of that. I think my biggest problem here with the architect is that he almost tries to remove himself from blame. We're going to get to a conversation in a minute that really solidifies that. But in this moment, to my warden, the best option seems like stopping the blights regardless of the rest of the results. However, what I don't like about this choice and this decision is there were no previous conversations to lead us to this. It's just dropped on us here, which again, restrictions, this was not made in a vacuum. I understand all the design stuff, but to discuss the choices we're making narratively, we have to remove some of that. I know this was a failed sequel, or not failed, but this was originally intended as a sequel, became a DLC. The whole process of going from DA1 to DA2 was a mess because of EA and the rush timelines. I know all of that, and we'll talk more about that as we go. But I think taking this as what it is, I feel like the narrative is a failure. And the fact that this decision seems unclear because of how it's written and not unclear because we just don't know what the right choice is, feel like two very different things. We always go back to the Legion choice with his loyalty mission because it's not sticky because we don't understand. It's sticky because we do. We know what both choices will do. We know the Geth intimately.
Very explicitly clear.
If they had made us make that choice in a DLC in the first game, it would have felt like this. But because we had 3 games with the Geth and Legion as a party member after killing the Geth for 2 games back to back, it made that choice more impactful. We really got to take our time because we weren't making that choice over the course of just this game or this mission. We're making that choice over the course of the second game. I'm sorry, it's not the third game. The second game, we're making that choice over the course of 2 games, right? Because Legion's in the second game. I'm not screwing that up. Right. And so
you're right.
We're making that choice over the course of almost 2 entire games. Whereas we're making this choice over the course of 1 game in theory, but the Darkspawn aren't treated any more than zombies, more or less, more intelligent zombies, but zombies nonetheless, mindless creatures we have to kill because they're being controlled by an old god. And now all of a sudden in this game, in 11 hours, we're being told everything we knew isn't true. And actually there's more to them. And I just feel like it's what we talked about before. There was this they gave us a Darkspawn DLC and gave us no insight to the Darkspawn in that DLC. And I think that was the failure. If we'd gotten some insight to the Darkspawn, if the Architect had appeared in that DLC or something and maybe freed our Darkspawn and gave us some autonomy, it would have given us this moment to actually reflect on, maybe there's more to this. But it ends up all just feeling sloppy and rushed in a way that I feel like other stuff hasn't.
Yeah, exactly. And the Architect says, I wanted to explain to you. You had opportunities to explain to me, baby. You just chose not to. So that's why he feels slimy to me. That's why when he says the cure for our lack of free will is Grey Warden blood, I do not assume good intentions there. Because everything he's done to this point has been tricky, has been slimy, has been I'm gonna put you in a cage and take your blood and do experiments on you and not talk to you at all. Because he's I tried to talk, but then I was we were attacked.
Right.
Maybe if you attempted to talk to me when you had me caged, we could have gotten to this point sooner and we could have worked things out. But you didn't. So I don't trust him at all. So I don't trust his intentions. I know that he wants to end the blight because he wants his people to no longer be killed. However, there has been no proof to me that the Darkspawn just want to live peaceful lives.
Right. Well, I think, and so here's the other sticky thing as well. I agree with you that the Architect's intention is unclear. We have no idea as a race of people what the Darkspawn want. We have one person telling us, and knowing that my character knowing that they are being controlled on any level makes me wonder. I mean, we are effectively trying to commit a genocide on some level, right? Wipe them out.
Right.
And so that's the other sticky side. Now, again, we're getting into territory where it's but if they're inherently evil, does it matter? But also, we don't know. Clearly, we've had conversations with Darkspawn that haven't resulted in violence or death, but they could be the exception, not the rule. And so at this point, while his ill intent is obvious, the want to stop the blight and stop any more violence is also pretty high up. And so that's where this kind of comes to a head, I think, for this decision. And so ultimately, we are in an impasse here where with the Architect, we have to decide in this moment, will we agree to partner with him, if nothing else, long enough to stop the blights and give the Darkspawn free will, or will we turn on him and just kill him and the mother? And so this is the choice we have to make here.
Oh, I killed him.
Wow. Okay. I did not.
I did, because like I said, I didn't trust his intentions. I felt like to give him the freedom to continue his experiments was going to result in the death of more people.
Right.
And while I do believe in free will for the Darkspawn, if that's possible, I don't believe that it should come at the cost of other people.
Yeah, that makes sense. Whereas for me, I actually decided to work with him because while I couldn't really know what his intentions would be after this, the fact that he's willing to have this conversation means that there is at least a possible opportunity to have another conversation. If he wanted to kill me and take my blood, he could have just done that, and he didn't. He could have.
But he needs us to kill the mother.
Right. But that said, I do agree, and Justice and Sigrun lose it. Like they eventually, I can persuade them to like trust me. And at one point, Justice just goes, "I don't trust. I don't trust you, but I don't trust this, but I'll follow you." But everyone is pretty much against it. Even Anders is against it. And what throws me for that is Anders, as someone who has spent his life not being able to have his own free will until he escaped, I thought he would at least see some of the logic in it. I feel like this decision is sticky, not just because it's a hard decision to make. It doesn't weigh on me the same way that Legion mission does. And it's the only reason I bring it up, because it's one of our more discussed ones. It feels like it's attempting that before they even did the Legion mission. And maybe this is what led them to do that, right? Since that comes after this. But it just doesn't feel sticky for the right reasons. But that said, I did agree to partner with him, kill the mother, and stop the blights. Because I think for me, it was, I mean, it can go either way. But to me, the stopping of deaths via the blight felt more important than anything else in that moment, which I think ultimately is what makes you make this decision. Is what are you focusing on? Like, to you in that moment, the focus was no more deaths, period. Like, I just don't want any of my people to die. Whereas for me, it was like the road to that, it felt more like by agreeing, because then there won't be any more I'm a dwarf. I was looking from the deep road side. If we agree to stop the blights, my people will stop dying in the deep roads.
Yeah, no, that's completely valid. I'm not fighting your decision in any way,
right.
shape, or
form. No, of course.
On my end, Nathaniel actually was not outraged, but he was like, "But we could stop the blights forever." When I was like, "Yeah, no, fuck you."
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Nathaniel, stay in your lane." But yeah, I fought the architect. While I understand everything that you're coming from, also from the mage perspective, mages have been killed so often by Templars who assume that they've succumbed to demons.
Right.
By demons themselves, because they're being forced to interact with demons to prove their strength. Anders has seen so much death at the hands of Darkspawn before he even became a Grey Warden. Like, I just don't think that there is a way forward with the information we currently have.
Right. That's just it. One of us is operating on the faith that we'll get more information, and the other is operating on the assumption that we won't. And I think that's where the decision splits.
Yeah. And just, he's slimy to me, and I can't get past that.
No.
Like, I cannot trust you.
Right. And I think that's the difference also, is maybe I'm more trusting than you are is part of it, which, again, neither is right or wrong. I think it's just the different perspectives and of how we came to it. So how does because I didn't do this, how does the fight with the architect go?
Fine.
You just whoop his ass.
Killed him.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't even get to fight Uther. Justice just handled it.
Amazing.
And me, Nathaniel, and Anders just went all in on the architect. And I was just like, okay, that's done. I also managed to activate all 3 towers and then promptly forgot about using them.
Yeah, I didn't activate any of the towers. I kept getting the crystals and going, I know that these are for something, but what are they for? And then never figured it out.
there's little not pedestals, but like little indentations in the floor of each tower that crystals are supposed to go in.
Totally missed them. Had all the crystals at the end of the game. Never used them. All right. Well, then this next part. So after this, regardless of your choice, you then approach the mother. And my conversation is obviously going to be very different from yours, so I'll go first. So when you approach the mother, the architect appears in like spectral form, and they bicker. And when you essentially, when the architect brings up that you're going to work together to stop this madness, the mother goes, "Okay, but did he tell you that the last blight, the most recent one, is his fault?" And then he kind of looks at you like, "Yeah." And so you pursue it, and he's like, "Well, so my intent was to summon the old god to see if I can find a way to stop this. I didn't want there to be another blight, but I saw it as the only way to figure out how to free the Darkspawn. And I deeply apologize." And I was like, "Really? You're sorry? That's it?" I had an opportunity here, and so I took it. I said, "I knew I shouldn't have trusted you." And so you can't call off your partnership here, but you can be like salty about it. And so I was. And then the mother like hand waves him away, like, "Be gone, spirit." Or as what's his name in Thor Ragnarok says, "Piss off, ghost." And so then you have to fight the mother. Did you have a conversation with her before you fight her?
Yes. First of all, when you approach her, all of the companions have something to say about her, and none of their reactions like weave together.
No, they're all independent, as if the other one hadn't spoken.
And I'm like, I hate that.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
And the mother talks about how, you know, he was promising freedom, but all he brought was silence, and that silence was deafening.
Yeah,
and
she says that to me too. Yeah.
She talks more about how like this was not a thing that she would have chosen for herself had she the ability.
Yeah, she says that to me too. Pretty much after she hand waves his spirit away, she goes into this conversation that I think you have either way.
But at least the mother, from my perspective, doesn't think that I'm gonna let her walk away just because I killed the architect.
Yeah, and in this, I mean, she knows she's not, because we're there with the intent to kill her, and she knows it.
Yeah. So the fight happens. This fight sucks. I hate this fight.
Yeah, I had to do this fight twice.
Oh, ouch.
So a few things. This fight sucks. Any fight with this type of enemy sucks, because we fought not like non-sentient versions of it in the past. But the fight was a challenge the first time through. Anders and Sigrun died almost immediately, and it was just me and Justice. But we fought our way through, killed her. I made the mistake of trying to take a screenshot. It crashed the game. And so then that's when I messaged you. I had to do the fight again. The second time, everybody died but me and my pet companion. So my bear tanked everything, while I just used rain of arrows close enough to me, the spawn, and her, while still plinking at her until she died. I kept drinking. I drank like 8 potions, but I survived. But I had to solo the entire fight. So the second time it took even longer.
That's so annoying.
Yes.
For me, what was annoying was that between the tentacles, the shoulder, and like every so often she would become impervious. I was just like, I just want this to be over.
Yeah.
This is not fun.
Yeah. We'll talk about this in our wrap-up episode, but the combat becomes exponentially less fun as we go on. And now it could be because we're playing on an easier difficulty, so it feels mindless until it's not. But I think also part of it is just how this lives between CRPG and regular RPG, because it's trying to be Baldur's Gate which came out before this, the originals, but it's not all the way there, right? It's not turn-based. It's sort of turn-based. You can pause the combat to reassess, but it is played often as action combat, but it's not quite that either, right? The next 2 games will lean more in the other direction, but like this is somewhere between an action RPG and a CRPG, but it doesn't do either of them well, and so it makes the combat tedious in a very strange way. And we'll dig more into that in the next episode. But like, I think it's important to say by this point, combat has become a non-thing, not even because it's always bad, but because it's always the same. And the challenge comes from bad game design, I think, than anything else.
Yeah, the thing that I hate about it is the auto attack. Because I'm like, I don't really have to do anything.
Well, right. You're right. Again, it's this weird CRPG-ifying of it to a degree, but it's still being always on auto attack is more MMO-ish kind of action RPG-ish, without the actual click to attack.
I have a question about the mother's death. Did you get a cool move?
Oh yeah, so I pick up a dagger off the ground and then like jump at her and like stab her in the head. I stab her in the chest and then stab her in the head.
I throw some funky magic at her.
Yeah, because I think the archer's base class is rogue.
Yeah.
I pick up a dagger off the ground, I run up and like I jump up onto her chest and stab her in the chest and then pull the dagger out, land, and then shove it into her head and she falls forward.
That's neat.
Yeah. It would have been cooler if I ever used the dagger. Which I have not, but
yeah, well, can't have everything.
No, we can't. And then after the battle's over, it like pretty much immediately cuts to the vignette stills, and it's just jarring.
It's over. It's done.
Yeah.
Like you can't like return to the keep and see like just even the barest hint of this is what's left.
Yeah, and which is again, as we discussed several episodes ago now, how the main game ended. When you finish the main game after fighting the final boss, it just ends, and then you get a bunch of vignettes, and so that's what we get here too.
But the nice thing about the main game is you do get this kind of final scene where you can kind of chat with all of the people.
Correct.
And then you could be like, okay, now I'm done. And like you make the choice that you're done, and then you get the vignettes and the credits.
Yeah.
Whereas this is like, yay, we killed the mother.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how your story unfolded.
Yes, exactly.
I took a couple of notes.
Yeah.
On the vignettes.
So did I. I'm assuming for Amaranthine we got the same one, which said it was restored. You know, They were able to build it back up. It's interesting. They say here that Amaranthine was restored after a couple of years, where Vigil's Keep took 5 years. Yeah. Which is interesting because we don't even know what happened to Vigil's Keep yet at this point. They say this first, which is interesting.
Yeah. For me, I find out that the keep lasted for a really long time before it eventually succumbed. As far as we know, maybe Sigrun died, but that is ambiguous.
Yep.
For me, Sigrun wouldn't have died because she was with you.
Right.
Valana was underneath some rocks that collapsed, but when they cleared away the rubble, there was no body. Oghren went all in on a fight, passed out due to blood loss, woke up weeks later.
Finding out that he was considered a hero.
Anders stayed with the Wardens until he was called to give a lecture on the Architect.
Yep.
But then he came back. Nathaniel worked hard to restore his name. Justice left Kristoff's body when it was clear the decay was too great.
But importantly, still, like, they believe he's out there somewhere, didn't go back to the Vale.
Darkspawn disease spread because we let the messenger go. Those are the only things that I took notes on.
So for me, the only major difference is the Valana one was the same. The Anders one, for me, he doesn't come back. He leaves. When they ask him to do that lecture, he says, no, fuck this, I'm out. And leaves the Grey Wardens.
Oh, my description said that he decides that it's time for him to leave when he's asked to do that lecture.
Yeah.
But he comes back months later.
Yeah, not for mine, though he comes back months later, wasn't there. For Sigrun, they say that mine says she eventually goes back to the dwarves, but then returns to Calharol and like gets more and more distant and isolated from folks until they never hear from her again.
No, Sigrun.
What was it? Oh, the Wardens hated my decision, but were outraged that I partnered with the Architect, but also acknowledged that there hadn't been another blight and that the Deep Roads have been surprisingly quiet since. There haven't been any Darkspawn in the Deep Roads since that choice was made. What else? Did you reinforce the walls of the keep, right? Yeah. Also, so yeah, mine says that while the keep was overwhelmed, the walls held strong because of the construction.
Oh, also because I found like all the ores. The soldiers wearing silverite became the Silver Order or something like that.
Yep. The other one is so Calharol was rediscovered. They tried to take it back because they found that it could be of use to the town. The Merchant Road opened back up after we saved it, but apparently the elves and humans continued to war because the humans stole a baby. an
Yeah,
elven
I saw
baby and
that.
killed it. And I was like, this is fucked up.
Humans suck.
Yeah. And then the last one I have is about my warden. Finally, it says that while your warden does a lot of work, my warden did a lot of work to help build the wardens back to what they are today. He ends up leaving. No one knows where he is. Some say he went to reunite with his love Zevran. Others say that he went on a mission, a soul searching mission on his own. So like we get this like kind of nebulous thing where no one knows where the warden ended up after this mission's over.
Yeah, I guess something similar. They're they mention how Alistair and my warden are like sometimes present at court, and I'm like, why would they be?
Yeah.
Why would they? Alistair's not king. Please get that through your head. That being said, mine talks about how the warden left the position of being warden commander, reunited with Alistair, and they kind of disappeared together.
Yeah.
And it's possible that they're on a mission, but nobody really knows.
Yeah. In mine, it made it clear that one of the options is he went with Zevran, but no one knows for sure. Which, fine, I'll take it. They finally mentioned my boyfriend again.
Don't worry. We'll get more mention of your boyfriend.
See, the first time I played these games, I had to kill him, so I have no idea how that shakes out.
Oh my god, you don't know? Okay.
Yeah. I
won't spoil it.
Yes. Anyway, and that's the end of Dragon Age Awakening. My playtime was 11 hours and 52 minutes.
Oh, I did not check. I wonder if I can find that out right now through the Xbox app.
Probably. So yeah, it's interesting that. Well, no, because through the Xbox app, it'll probably say your total playtime for the game.
Yeah, no. So I cannot answer.
I was able to find this because it was in the save file. If you look at the save file, it just says the hours for Awakening.
Yeah, I you didn't tell me to check.
I
so
forgot.
I didn't.
I forgot. Anyway, the DLC's done.
It's over.
Yeah, I messaged you about this. I don't think I like this DLC. I think ultimately I said this on Twitter when I posted about my completion of it. I love the characters in this DLC, and I still love the world, but I think the narrative is weak at best. Like it's just not well organized, well written, and in giving us the freedom of choice, I think doesn't give us enough information. Like in the Mass Effect games, I always felt when I was out of my depth, it wasn't because the game didn't give me the tools. It was because I was overwhelmed by the choice. I didn't know what the right choice was. But in all the moments where I didn't feel like I knew what the right choice was here, it was because I wasn't given enough information. I was genuinely confused on what I should do. That could be me. It could, but I don't think it's too far afield to say that this game has its issues. And I think the narrative of this DLC is a glaring one.
Like you said, there were characters I really liked. There were moments that I liked.
Yeah.
I do like that it sparked a lot of conversation for us. Like we had a very in-depth conversation about what to do about the architect. I think that there's definitely a lot to dissect in terms of analysis, but overall, for enjoyability, it was meh. Yeah, I didn't love it. I didn't hate it.
No.
I didn't love it.
No, and I don't know how it's going to play into my overall ranking of the game since it's part of this game, even though it feels like a standalone. But yeah, I didn't hate it either. I don't think I think if I hated any of these games, we wouldn't be replaying them. But like, I think part of it is also that it just didn't. Look, we're not going to make the same lightning strike that we did with the Mass Effect seasons. I think it's fair to say we both love that franchise more than this one, even though I know it's closer for you than it is for me. I haven't replayed this as many times as you have, but I do think that the base game's narrative is much stronger than the DLC narratives. But I don't know. When we get to our final episode next, I don't know how I'm going to feel about it all told. I definitely didn't enjoy it as much as even Mass Effect 1, which is saying something because Mass Effect 1, especially the way we played it, especially the way I played it on PC in the original version and not the remaster, was a slog. But yeah, for the next episode, we're going to kind of wrap up our thoughts on the game. We have some special plans for that episode. And then from there, we'll move on to the sequel, Dragon Age 2. So if you have thoughts, concerns, ideas for the next season, for season 6, God, we've done this for 6 seasons. Ridiculous. If you have ideas for season 6, please let us know. As we've said, we do plan to bring on more guests. So if you know folks who particularly love Dragon Age 2 especially, or you yourself are someone who particularly loves Dragon Age 2 especially, please let us know, as we are going to build out a roadmap for that, hopefully more successfully than this game where it didn't exist at all. So tune in for that. Obviously, if for whatever reason you haven't wrapped up the game by now, please do. But this has been a educational journey, if nothing else. And it's always fun to play these games with you, Frankie, regardless of how good the games are.
I love you too, buddy.
Yeah.
So our next episode is going to be a wrap-up. We are going to talk about how we felt about Origins overall. And we may have a special surprise for that. We'll see. I don't want to overpromise anything. But if you like what you heard here, don't forget to follow us on social media. We're at ReignitePod on Twitter, Blue Sky, Tumblr, and Instagram, facebook.com/reignitepod, or you can send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. Don't forget to find us on Twitter at FrankieBWrites and at DJ_Stormageddon. And on Blue Sky, we're FrankieBWrites and DJ Stormageddon with no underscore. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher if you can. It helps us get seen so other people can find us.
If you want other folks to join in the conversation more naturally about Dragon Age Origins and the many things we've done before, rating and reviewing us on your podcast platform of choice helps folks to find it when they go searching, because if we are the highest rated podcast about that topic, it will push us to the top of those searches. So please help us with that. We're also members of the Certain Point of View podcast network. You can visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server on the website and join in the conversation, as I said. You can also find links to the Discord, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify to rate and review, all in the show notes down below, as well as anything else that we've got going on that we put in those places.
I'm going to be presenting a paper on why monster hugging is gay over at GIFCON, Glasgow's International Fantasy Conversations, Conjuring Creatures and Worlds. If you're an academical nerd like I am, then this might be up your alley. And it's a free online conference, so there's no need to travel to Scotland. Search GIFCON on Eventbrite to register.
I'll also include a link to register in the show notes down below. As for me, you know where to find all my stuff, djstormageddon.com. I have a Ko-fi, or coffee apparently, as it's meant to be pronounced. Anyway, it's Kofi. I don't know. Pronunciation is hard. But you can go there. You can also find a Patreon for the Fun and Games podcast, which is the other video game podcast that I do. We've really been able to step up some cool stuff this year. We're currently running polls for our next console retrospective. We often put up episodes early on the Patreon. There's also a free tier where you can join just to see the articles and get the regular episodes and my update on the games I've been playing and things like that. Any support is welcome. And yeah, I think that's it for me as far as promotion. We'd also like to thank the incredible Case Aiken for developing some amazing t-shirt designs that you can find at certainpov.com or on the CPOV Teespring. Also, I want a big thanks to Case for continuing to design our individual episodes show art. We love them every time, unless we don't, and then we critique them, and then he fixes them. But we love you anyway.
We'd like to thank Radek Wade and Echoes of Oblivion for our theme music.
And of course, last but not least, we'd like to thank Red Spinks for designing our badass Dragon Age inspired logo. To see more of his work, you can go to Chaos Does Art on Instagram.
Well, that's it for us. I'm Frankie.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon. Remember, Grey Wardens.
In war, victory.
In peace, vigilance.
In death, sacrifice.
Okay, bye.
Do you feel like you're the only person in your circle who wants to go deep about video games regularly?
We were like that too, until now.
Welcome to Crossplay Conversations, the brand new bi-weekly topical video game podcast from Luke Lewis,
Joseph Hooper,
and Jacob McCord.
With many years of breaking it down separately on shows like the Left Behind Game Club, Player Podcast, and Lukewarm Games, the gang is finally coming together to publish their gaming group chat in audio form every other week.
Expect roundtable reviews of the latest games, profiles of upcoming indies, and insightful conversations about essential topics in the video game industry. All with a mostly positive, insightful, and fun style.
Crossplay Conversations debuts on August 1st with brand new episodes hitting every other Tuesday. Help us out by subscribing on your podcast platform of choice to get the first episodes delivered straight to your feed.
And follow us on Twitter at Crossplay Convos for updates about the show.
Cheers and happy gaming.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.